Hi, it's Michelle and Laura from Empowered Decision. Today we're going to talk about, had some people come to us and they're desperate to leave, and what they tend to do is either resign without a backup plan, without something to go to, and concerns about how quickly they need to find something else. Or they're so confused because emotionally maybe they're not in the right space because they're really unhappy that they can't logically think through the options that are available and do the proper sort of research to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
I think we've each had an example of that. So I'll tell you a bit about my example. I had a client who was really keen to get out of his current workplace, and he really felt that he didn't have an alternative, he needed to go now. It was sort of that kind of scenario. So he went on a few interviews, he got really good response, and then decided to resign without having something else lined up. And I become so anxious when that happens, because I think most of us can't afford that income gap. And you have to protect yourself. You have to make sure that you receive a letter of appointment to start with, and that you sign it, that you read it, that you understand it in a calm space, and then you return it, and you get a copy back signed, right? And he didn't get to that point, and what started happening is things started going a bit wonky between that point and him resigning, and you can just see now there's an anxiety, now there's a what must I do, and I was so cautious to not say to him, let's go to the wall and try and get this letter of appointment, because you don't want to create the wrong impression. You don't want to argue with the person who's facilitating that move for you. You know, there's so many things that you need to consider, and in a way, I think, as horrible as it is, because we know what it feels like when you wake up in the morning and you just can't roll out of bed anymore. I think just to get that self-protection, just make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and that you've got that letter of appointment in hand before you trigger your resignation, because you're still very often in the company for another week or 4 weeks or whatever, and then you've got time then to settle your brain and everything else, but and to leave things in a good space. But I think that
What do you think on the other alternative though, where they haven't got to that point where they are very confused about what they want to do? So you're really unhappy. Have you got any advice there?
Yeah, I think not to make any moves. I think to give yourself time so that you can pull yourself out of that situation. And for some people it means taking a bit of time off maybe. So I might now contradict what I'm saying, but if you've got the luxury of having that gap, and you've got, a bit of leave due or a bit of carry me over kind of funds, then that would be great. But I think just talking again, being in a process where there's somebody that's objective, somebody that you can go to just to take you through a bit of a discovery process. I think that's valuable. I know that you had that kind of scenario, and that's what you were advising.
Yeah, I think I had one client that I worked with where they were just really unhappy. It really wasn't what they thought it would be, and they were desperately unhappy and had to get out of there. But I think it's that next step of, regardless of whether you're there or you've left, is how you look in a structured way at the options that you have, how you research them, because what I tend to find is people go round and round in circles, and they sort of have a couple of options they're looking at, but they know that there's things that maybe there's a skills gap, or they don't think they're likely to get those roles, or whatever it is, and so, or it's freelance and they really need a permanent job, so they tend to go round in that circle without kind of resolving it. So it's taking those steps to kind of get those concrete answers and how you can move. Is it a possibility or not?
And not panicking about the process, and just saying you need some time to let it unfold. And the more you think about it, the more you test viability and all of those kind of things of the next role, and what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. The more you have time, and it's a luxury. Most of us don't have that time to go and sit under a tree and really think about it. But I think that that's where you need to go. Otherwise, again, the last thing that you want is for the situation to repeat itself, and for you to take that snap decision, go into something else just because you're thinking, I just need to know that I've got something else to go to. And I think that's potentially not the best, outcome necessarily. So think before you leap. Okay.